So you make an app for teens, and one thing that teens really struggle with is the negative effects from social media. You did an interview with The Independent recently, and you talked about this, for example. What are your thoughts on, I guess, this topic? Because social media is not going away anytime soon, but clearly it does have a negative effect on a group of people. I think that's pretty obvious. Yeah. How do we deal with this? What are your thoughts on it? All right, Jazz, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Cool. So you're the co-founder of Luna, which you've built from just an idea into now a fast-growing digital health app for teens. So what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? You went on this journey a couple of years ago. A lot of people listening, watching, they want to do what you have done. Like, what's step one? What tips, what advice, what recommendations would you give them?
Oh, God, where to begin, really? I would say that there's never going to be a right time. Actually, I truthfully think it probably gets a bit harder as you get more responsibilities, whether that's, taking on a house, having a family or finding a partner and whatnot. So, I think if you've got a good idea, it's definitely worth testing it, maybe in like the scrappiest way you can, seeing if it's, got legs. And if so, and if the time feels right, then try and do it. Because, I don't know if you agree, but it definitely gets harder as you get more responsibilities. I think that's probably my first piece of advice. And then the second one is just to surround yourself with the right people to help make it possible. So whether that's a co-founder to help you through the journey, I'm really blessed. I have a great co-founder, Joe, my best friend, as well as my business partner, but also a really strong group of like friends and family who are also there to, I guess, just pick you up when it's pretty rough, or to tell you that's going to be fine, or to help you out with cooking or meal deliveries or whatever that looks like. I think having that support system is also super important. So yeah, 2 bits of advice, I think, for me.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with both of them. Like when you get a house and a partner and then you have kids, you're not just taking risks for you, you're taking risks for your family. And it's a lot harder to do that. So I started when my wife was pregnant. And I felt like I had to start, or it was going to be too late to build something. Now, obviously, it wouldn't have been too late, but it would have been a lot harder mentally to kind of make that leap from a safe corporate job into the world of startups. But and then your second point around having the ecosystem around you, that's how we met. We're both part of a community and a networking group for founders. And having that support system in place, it just really, really helps you, right? And it really, when you're feeling down, when you're struggling, you have people you can go to who have been there, they've done that, and they know the answer.
Exactly. They just get it, don't they? And I think sometimes it can be difficult with friends who might have like more safe, secure corporate jobs or more normal hours, shall we say, but having someone else who's literally can say, like, I've been there, I've done that, this is what I did, or even introduce you to someone else to help you out. I just think, that founder community is, so important. Having founder friends is, invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. You've raised over $1 million so far to help build your platform. So what advice would you share to people that are looking to secure capital? Because a lot of people, they're struggling to get like £1, never mind like $1 million. So where do people go and how could they improve their pitch or their persistence when it comes to meeting investors? What recommendations would you give on that topic?
It's a good question, and I definitely think there are loads of different ways to do it, and I think a lot also depends on like the market and what's going on there. I think our first raise was significantly easier than our sort of top up raise, which was most recently. I would definitely say the first thing is everyone always thinks like, VC, that is like the route to go down. And don't get me wrong, it is obviously a great way to grow. You get a couple of checks in quite quickly, you're done. But that said, VCs, they're investing other people's money here. They have to have a certain level of conviction. They need to, know you're either the right team or have a product with traction or see some early revenue. In short, there are just like higher metrics and things you need to prove to them. And so actually the route we went down first, before we actually had a product and we were just an idea, first time founder, nobody knows who I am, I'm just ex-Deloitte Jazz, was first actually going out to people we knew, and not necessarily like friends and family, but actually the people we went to were our old bosses. So people who we had worked with, who'd seen our track record, who knew we could execute, obviously talked up the sort of tax relief that comes with angel investing, and we got a bit of capital from them. Once we had like raised an initial tranche, we then were able to go and leverage that and get some angels on board. So that was a lot of like cold calling. It was very hard to get in front of angel groups, again, when you don't have a product or traction. So it was finding angels that you think might resonate with your mission. So for us, it's teenagers. We were going after like parents. It's teenage girls specifically, so going after women who might resonate with the mission. And we had a targeted list of about 280 angels, cold called them. We only had calls with 3, only got 1 in, but that 1 in was then able to make introductions for us. So I think it might take a lot of time to get that first angel, but once you have, they will advocate for you. They will get you in front of these groups and into other side WhatsApp groups or Slack groups that they have, and that is just so valuable. So that's how we did our first round, and then we went after the sort of VC money and bigger checks and family offices. So it takes time, it takes grit, and I think keep going until you find that one person who will really like shout about you. Because having one person on board, whether that's a VC, angel, or even an old boss who can then bring their friends on board, it just makes a big difference. But yeah, it's tough, and I think if you do have any side money that you're able to put into this, I didn't. I paid for my MBA, so I literally had £0, so I wasn't able to bootstrap. But that is also another option. But I appreciate that is not easy. No, I get that, and you're absolutely right. It just takes one person for the dominoes to start falling, and then you can use that and go back to the previous list that said no and go, hey, this person's on board, and then the FOMO starts kicking in and that stuff. It's just human psychology. Definitely, and I do think like those first angels who might invest in you at the sort of pre-product stage, they also know VCs. They've often invested in VCs funds. So when it comes to the next round and doing due diligence, nurturing those relationships and then being able to advocate for you to these VCs or bigger funds is also super important. So I think don't underestimate the power of angels, because they have got a lot of power, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of power, connections. I do a bit of angel investing, and I love what you said around WhatsApp and Slack groups, because WhatsApp groups basically run the world at this point. Yeah, and I mean, we're in a few WhatsApp groups together, but if I put a message in there about a company that I've invested in, or I'm trying to make introductions to people, one message to 50 entrepreneurs and investors is all it takes for it to really start rolling, and then the snowball gets bigger and bigger and picks up momentum and gets faster and faster. But most people, they quit before they get that first little bit of momentum, and then they never see what happens later on down the line. So you've got to keep going, don't you? Yeah,
and I think I was really close to that during this top up, and then we unlocked someone who did just that. And I think one thing I would like to say, which I didn't know when I first went out to raise, is being an angel investor doesn't mean you have to put £20,000, £50,000 in, which is what I thought a traditional angel investor is. There are some amazing tools out there to enable like entrepreneurs and other founders and friends to put in smaller tickets, £1,000, £2,000, but they sort of roll up into bigger amounts. So to your point, 50 people in a WhatsApp group, they might love it and be like, actually, I'll take 1,000. That's 50k, done. And I think, that is just something I wish I knew and had unlocked earlier.
And it also unlocks a much bigger access to adding value.
100%.
Because you could send a message to all of them, hey, who do you know at this company?
100%.
Who can help with this? And then you've got 50 people on your team helping out.
Yeah, follow our Instagram page, share this. I'm trying to do employer stuff, introduce me to employer. I honestly think there's so much value in that, and I wish someone had told me about that earlier.
Hey, this podcast is brought to you by WeLoveAlpha.com. If you're looking to grow and hire and scale your software engineering team in the UK, then go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software developers on the market. Everything across Java to C# to PHP to Python to React and Angular and mobile and more. Go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software engineers in the UK now.
Yeah, so I agree with you. VC it's a good way to do it, but it's not the only way to do it, and don't have blinders on. You mentioned your co-founder a few times there. So you met during your MBA at Oxford University, but strangely enough, you actually worked to get together in the same building.
You've done your research.
Always research, right? So you're in Deloitte, you worked on the same floor, but you never met each other. I mean, Deloitte's a massive company, right? So it's not unusual to hear that. But what do you think is important when picking a co-founder? Because you obviously work together really, really well, but a vast number of startups fail because of co-founder disputes. I still think it's important to have one for the reasons you explained earlier, but what's important when picking a co-founder? How can you make it work?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I feel really lucky and blessed to have Joe as my co-founder. Because I have also watched some of my founder friends go through some very messy breakups. So I'm not sure what's worse, having a founder relationship that doesn't work or being on your own. I'm not sure, because it's tough doing it solo, but definitely possible. But in terms of what I think works, I think the number one thing has to be trust. You have got to trust this person, because one, life throws you curveballs, and you can't plan for everything, and there are going to be times when you're in the business or you have to step out of the business and the other person has to step up and make decisions without your input. Building on that trust piece, you cannot be involved in everything, especially when the startup is scaling. Joe looks after product and tech. That is her side of the world. If she wants my input, I'm very happy to give it, but ultimately I don't have time to sit and review everything and input everything or be on in every meeting anymore. There was a time when that was possible, but our team is growing, we have more members, that's not possible. And so being able to trust someone to make the right decisions without you is also really important. So I think trust is definitely one big thing. And I think second to that is just being able to have a really open and honest communication. Not everything is going to be smooth, whether that's at home in your personal life or at work. There will be things that they might do or say that you weren't happy with or not comfortable with, and you need to be able to flag that and raise that and do it have those conversations 100%, and instead of it snowballing and then it just exploding in front of the rest of the team. I think someone you're able to really be open and honest with, especially if you think something they're doing isn't going right, and vice versa. I'd hope somebody says, I wasn't sure about this decision. So I think I think that's really important. And then lastly, you just have to enjoy their company. You mentioned you have a wife, I have a husband, but I can't lie, Joe is literally like my work wife as well. We are WhatsApping all the time, Slacking all the time, sometimes doing both at the same time. And if you do not enjoy spending time with this person, then it will become very painful, because it is a long, intense journey. So for me, those are the top three things.
You're right, it's long and intense. It takes on average, I think, 7 or 8 years before an exit. So if you're getting into bed with a co-founder, you're doing it for a long time. A long time. So you need to make sure it's going to work in year 5 as opposed to just the first couple of weeks, right? The honeymoon phase will very quickly run out. Okay, so you make an app for teens. And one thing that teens really struggle with is the negative effects from social media. You did an interview with The Independent recently, and you talked about this, for example. What are your thoughts on, I guess, this topic? Because social media is not going away anytime soon, but clearly it does have a negative effect on a group of people. I think that's pretty obvious. How do we deal with this? What are your thoughts on it?
It's a really good question, and I think in the interview I actually had talked about me turning my own Instagram off, my own personal channels.
Yes. Well, I saw that when trying to research. It said taking a break right now or something.
Yeah, exactly. That said, I'm now posting a lot more on LinkedIn, and I'm like, is it the same thing happening again? But it is a tough one, and it's a tough one for me to give my opinion on, because I'm also not a parent of a teenager, and so I don't have first-hand experience with that. Obviously, I've been a teenager and I work very closely with our brand ambassadors. I do all things community. And to be honest, I do think they also want some limitations around social media or some tools to help them as well. And that's where I think Luna really plays a part in being a digital alternative to social media. It's a safe space. There's no communication element between users. It's just you and an app. You can explore things without people knowing what you clicked, searched, liked, or whatever. My opinion on the whole piece around social media is actually not to entirely take it away from young people, but actually to educate them and work with them around like what the dangers could be, what too much consumption looks like, and when to know it's out of, when perhaps you've had too much and it's getting a bit out of control. A bit like I noticed that with my own Instagram feed. And the reason I say that is I think it's a bit like, taking alcohol and cigarettes and vapes away from young people. Ultimately, when you take something away from someone, they want it more. But I will sort of say, like, I'm not a parent, and so I don't know what that is like. And I think it's difficult, say you don't have a phone, I have a phone, and you're a teen. You'll just come to me and say, Jazz, can I have it? Let's go on TikTok together or whatever. But yeah, I know it's a very polarizing subject. I know some people have gone whole sort of just give them a Nokia brick phone until they are 13, 16 years old, and others taking a more liberal approach. But for me, it's sort of somewhere in the middle. And I think, that education piece is really important and something that we're trying to do with both teenagers and parents. But, ask me in a few years' time when perhaps I have my own family and a teen, I might be saying something totally different. But that's where my head is at for now.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very honest and genuine answer, because there is no easy, like tick in the box for this, is there? And you're right, the alternatives are Nokia brick or full on have everything. And clearly that is not the way to do it. And it's really hard to do the Nokia brick because you need Google Maps. Like, you need internet for basic things.
And they'll still use, that's the thing, I just think.
It becomes like they want it more.
Becomes more, and they will still be able to find dangerous stuff by Googling things. So that's why I just think there is a role in the world for positive platforms where they can safely search stuff like Luna or learn things. But it is a really tough one, and my LinkedIn feed is full of this conversation all the time.
Yeah, mine too, yeah. So your app was picked by Apple to be the app of the day.
Three times.
Wow. That's cool. How do you create, and I appreciate this is more of your co-founder's tech product area, but from your perspective, how do you create a beautiful product? Because there's so many apps out there, they don't always get picked Apple of the day 3 times, which is really cool. But how do you do that? How do you build something that people want to keep coming back to, that people love to use and enjoy? Yeah,
it's a really good question, and I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for that achievement, because when you do go on the App Store, there are like thousands.
Millions.
Yeah. And I think we can be really harsh on ourselves sometimes. So thank you for saying that. Truthfully, we always knew we wouldn't be able to build Luna as 2 millennials, giving away my age, building for Gen Alpha. And so I know everybody says, customer centricity, customer is key, but genuinely, we have built Luna since -100 day -100 with our users, because we don't know what it's like to be a teen in 2024. In fact, our experience was different. We went from having no information and craving this information to actually now misinformation overload. So it's like very different. And so we have basically involved users from the jump, and they still are so actively involved in what we are building. So we have a really active group of brand ambassadors, and that group has like evolved. Some people have grown and like gone to university, and like sort of left us, others have like moved on. But we now have about 350 brand ambassadors, which my co-founder works with on a bi-weekly basis. So she gets on calls with them and she's like, this is a product roadmap, or let me show you these designs, like what do you think? And they are a generation which are extremely honest and will tell you if something doesn't look good or if they are confused. And so we really lean into their quite honest and sometimes brutal feedback. And then alongside that, being data-driven, again, just because they say they want something doesn't mean that they will always use it. So we're happy to mock something up quite quickly and stick it in there, but if we're seeing that button or that feature isn't being used, it's coming out pretty quickly. So yeah, truthfully, I think it is genuinely being like user-led, but not just at the surface level. Like, they are so integrated in our business. This week I have a work experience student on, 16 years old. I mean, she has had so many great ideas for the app that we hadn't even noticed. So they really are integral to our product and, yeah, to building an app that teens do genuinely love.
And everyone talks about speaking to users, but then how many actually do it?
Yeah, exactly. And I know when I was a consultant, we often talked about this customer centricity and whatnot, but this is what we're doing is true customer centricity. And we even have a button actually in the app, a live feedback button, where they can send, thoughts for new articles, feedback on features and things like that. So we are literally every day accumulating feedback. Whether we choose to do it all, something different. But we've always sort of got a finger on the pulse with what they want and maybe what they need as well.
Cool. So Jen, I'm 27, so I'm a millennial. All
I
right.
think you're like border millennial Gen Z.
Okay, so below me is Gen Z.
Yeah, and then there's Gen Alpha.
So my 1-year-old is Gen Alpha?
Gen Alpha, yeah. So digital native generation. They're like 0 to 10 years old now. So everyone's sort of building for that generation. And we're yet to really see what this generation are like, but things around, Gen Z really appreciated inclusivity, but this is like to a whole new level. And I think Luna will be the first to be able to say, this is how they use apps, this is the time of the day, this is what they appreciate, this is the kind of questions they're asking. And our view is to hopefully be the most valuable insight holders on this generation. So we're watching and we're learning very, very quickly.
That's cool. I grew up and had like early internet, right? But imagine growing up with ChatGPT. It's like it's very different, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, ChatGPT is helping them at school, testing them, sometimes aiding them a bit more with homework than they need. I mean, schools, have a really big challenge on their hands with what they do with it.
This is a quick message to tell you about Alpha University. Alpha University is an advanced training program to help you reach success in 7 simple steps. I am going to personally coach you so that you can achieve your goals, make more money, and transform your life. Just go to joinalphauniversity.com now or click the link in the description. Okay, so your co-founder is great at building the app of the day, building the tech, building the product. You're really great at getting that out there and getting sales and marketing and making people interested in what you have. How do you do that? What's important when trying to get a product out there to the world?
Great question. And it's a good question because we kind of have 2 customers. We have the teenager, which, they are the core users, the members of the platform. But we also have the parent who is the payer and also the approver of, I'm going to give my child this app. And so it's a dual marketing strategy. But for Luna, we are talking about somewhat taboo topics. We're talking about first periods, talking about relationships, and to some teenagers, that's still a bit icky. And so actually we, in the first phase of Luna, basically had the challenge of making, these potentially, unsexy topics, cool, something that people wanted to be part of, and an app that teenagers were happy to refer people to and say, I use this app, and not be like, I'm hiding it because it's embarrassing. So actually the first sort of phase of Luna was all about creating this cool brand, this community, this movement, that actually being a teenager isn't, it is hard, but there's support there, and there is like a really cool brand and app and product that you can go and learn about all things girlhood. We quickly identified that Gen Alpha are not on Instagram, they're on TikTok. So our Instagram channel went on pause, but TikTok's been a huge growth channel for us. And so, phase 1 was all about growing that and trying to understand what content teenagers want to see on the platform. We learned quite quickly, it's not me and my co-founder, it's actually not even the medics who create the content for the app, but they wanted to see themselves on the platform. So they wanted like community-led videos, and that's where our brand ambassadors, we have a segment who are the social media ambassadors, and they have played a really amazing role in spotting trends, creating content quickly, and creating relatable content. So TikTok was a great brand builder for us. We've got the flywheel turning with teenagers, that channel is flying. And now, now with parents, the piece there is, thought leadership, educating them on, what teenagers are asking and wanting help with, but then also giving them advice and giving them tips. There's a real gap when it comes to supporting parents of teenagers. As a parent, you probably got a lot of support prenatal, at birth, hopefully now as well. And in primary school, friendships form when you go to the school gate and you drop people off. But when you go to secondary school, sometimes there's a huge cliff, and that's because your child starts to go to school on their own, or you're just dropping them off at the school gate because having your parent take you in isn't cool anymore, and that support system really drops. So I think for us, it's also being that support system to parents through newsletters, through building the Instagram channel back up for them, and just being a thought leader there as well. But at the heart, it comes down to community, and that's what we've really leaned into.
Cool. So community, but with different ideal customer profiles in mind, and then going after them with a multi-pronged attack. Basically.
Exactly. It has to be for us. We have two very different profiles, and having one channel for both just does not work. Nobody wants to be seeing, parents don't want to see the same things that teens are seeing, and vice versa. So we learned that quite quickly, and that's been our strategy moving forward.
Cool. On the Other Half podcast, you said that you enjoyed your MBA, but you felt like it didn't really teach you about how to properly start a business. So what are your thoughts on traditional university versus, I guess, just learning online for free and networking, community and that stuff?
It's a good question, because I do think times have really changed as well. So I only did my MBA 4 years ago now.
But 4 years ago, the world was a very different place.
It is true, and I do think there's lots more. I mean, TikTok has really taken off in the last 4 years. Becoming a creator. There's so many creators giving great advice and tips, and I would argue that was at the early stages 4 years ago. And I come from quite a traditional background, immigrant parents, where having formal education is we're so lucky to be able to have that chance, and it's just something you sort of do. I was the first one in my family to go to uni. So it's balancing that alongside all the, the actual practical side of things. I think there are a lot of great resources online, and I think if you want to start a business, you don't have to do an undergraduate course or a formal course to do that. That said, these courses aren't going away as well. So, I just think there's no set order that we should be thinking about doing things anymore.
You did Deloitte and then the MBA, right?
Exactly.
So you did the reverse of what I guess would be considered normal.
Exactly. I think the MBA for me, I didn't go into the MBA being I want to start a business. I actually went in thinking I'd go into VC, and I was that'd be a really great springboard. But also, it'll give me backup opportunities in case that's not right. And I've come out with this business idea. But yeah, there are so many forums out there, so many creators, and I think the biggest thing is network and speaking to people, because I remember the day Joe and I said, okay, we're going to do this. We were sitting in a hotel lobby, as you do as a startup, being okay, well, what do we actually do now? Where do we start? We have this idea, and we just got on the phone to someone in our cohort who had started a business, and then they were literally you need to incorporate, you need to do this, and I know it sounds really stupid, but when you've been in the corporate world for 6 years, you don't know this stuff. So it really depends on the situation. I mean, I definitely wouldn't say you have to do an MBA to go and do a business. Absolutely not. They're extremely expensive, but they are valuable in so many other ways. But you can get this value, by hustling, by just cold outreach, by messaging people. People are kinder than, I don't know what you think, but people are kinder than we think, reaching out to people and asking for 10 minutes of their time because you're interested in learning about their job or how they got somewhere. I think people are open to it.
Definitely. I think that the best thing that I ever did, apart from, getting married and having a baby and starting my company, was starting a podcast, because I've been able to speak to hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs and investors and people running charities and all kinds of cool stuff. And I dropped out of uni and then learned how to build a business by doing podcasts, because I just asked people the same questions that I've asked you. Hey, how do you start a business? How do you raise money? And by having hundreds of those conversations, I've got a mental playbook on how to deal with every single tricky situation in the world. Now it's very different when you're in that situation, but I've got a network that I can go to and go, hey, here's the challenge, here's the problem, what would you recommend I do? And it's just been the best lifelong MBA that I've discovered. 100%.
I mean, I think that is amazing that you had the confidence to go, to drop out and be I'm doing this, and I'm just in awe of that. And I think for me, I needed a confidence boost, and that MBA was that boost, and it was a bloody expensive boost, but it got me to where I needed to be. So I just think everyone's situation is so different. There really is no one size fits all. There's, things like privilege that pays into this, financial situations, where you are in your life, what you need, where you think your gaps are. But I mean, it just shows that you can do it without a degree. You don't need a degree. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs drop out of school and they start amazing things. So everyone's journey is totally different. But had I not done my MBA, I wouldn't have met Joe and wouldn't have been building Luna. So there's a path for us all.
Yeah, and my wife did a PhD, and if I didn't meet her, there's a good chance I wouldn't be doing this as well. So it's easy to connect the dots looking backwards, but it's really, really hard to do it looking forwards, right? Okay, so you're married, and a lot of founders struggle to build a startup whilst managing personal relationships. It's hard. But when I was working in a corporate job for 5 years, I always felt exhausted at the end of the day, and I'd work long hours. Now I just feel exhausted 24/7, but I'm working 24/7. Like the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed, and it is important to take breaks and so you don't experience burnout. We were just talking about this before the podcast, but I do struggle at that, to be honest. I'm really, really bad at taking breaks. But how do you deal with work-life balance? And I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know if I even like that term. But how do you build a successful startup whilst also build a successful relationship with your partner?
It's really hard, and I don't think I have it cracked quite yet. And I am in awe of people who are also able to build amazing businesses and have a family as well, because I think that is just another level. Totally. Yeah. I am trying to be a bit more, protective of my time. I'm really lucky to have lots of great friends who are, a great time. I love hanging out with them. But no one else is running a startup, and so they don't have the same levels of stress that I have, or anxiety that I have, or workload, I guess, to some extent. And so I've just had to be really open with them and just say, I still love you, I still want to be your friends, but I just don't know if I can keep up with the social momentum. Some have taken it well, most have taken it well, and others haven't. But that, I'm just doing the best that I can. So I think that's one thing. I do think anyone who is, and I've said it before on other podcasts, and I've said it on my LinkedIn multiple times, but I think partners of founders are just amazing, as in my husband. There's a certain level of patience. And
especially the first 1 or 2 years.
Until you're stable. And we're getting there with Luna, but Joe and I are still very much very involved. Making sure they are on the journey with you and really know what it's going to take for the next 7 years, like you said before, is really important. Truthfully, I don't think either of us knew what we were getting ourselves into when we did this, but he is 100% on this journey with me. He is, another team member at Luna, and has just really stepped up in supporting me. But for us, I do try and keep Sundays, for us, that is the jazz and jazz day as much as possible. And then I guess just lastly, I've noticed that if I don't take a break every 3 months, then I'm not doing my best at the business. And I we were saying before, should we openly talk about breaks? Should we not be talking about breaks? I realise that is, if I do more than that, then I am going downhill. And actually just taking a weekend off from everything, or even 3-4 days away, I come back feeling refreshed. And I think trying to be more purposeful with that and having those sort of dates in the diary so I know what I'm working towards has been really helpful. But, I don't have it right. I'm trying my best to get to the gym. For me, 4 times a week is great, but I even see that slipping and me putting meetings in over that, I'm trying to get that back on the schedule, because that is also a great chance for me to just be in survival mode at the gym and just focus on getting through this 60 minutes versus thinking about Luna. But it is hard, and I'd welcome your sort of thoughts as well, and if you've heard any other good tips from others, because it's not easy, it's really, really hard.
I think the best 2 bits of advice I've been given, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I follow these, so I'm really good at giving this advice to people. I'm probably really bad at following it, but the metaphor or analogy, whatever the word is, would be, look, you're spending all day trying to build a company with an axe trying to chop down a tree, and eventually that axe is going to get blunt, And if you go and take a break and sharpen the axe, when you come back, you'll be able to get it down a lot faster, a lot quicker, a lot more efficiently, rather than just trying to go blunt on the tree all the time. So I think that's a really, really visual way of describing what we're trying to talk about. And I guess the second thing is, and this is something that's really, really hard to do, but just putting personal stuff in your calendar and treating it in the same way that you treat like an important meeting where you don't move it. So like whether that's your gym or whether that's a date or whatever, if it's there, color-coded, you're not going to touch it, then if something else comes up, you know that you need to move that thing that's just come up rather than the thing that's already in the calendar. And I struggle with that, but that's probably I know it's super basic, but common sense is not always common practice, right?
I know, it's so difficult, isn't it? But ultimately, you know, these relationships are, in my opinion, like here to stay. You know, hopefully you exit your business and at some point that won't be like all you care and think about anymore. And I do try and remember that in times of like, should I move this? Should I not move this? But, you know, like your family means, well, for me, family means like so much. And yeah, they are, you know, more important.
So I guess final question. What inspires you? Like, why are you doing this? And it takes a very special type of person to quit a safe corporate job, to risk everything, to try and build something from scratch and build something which could be sold for a lot of money, but also help a lot of people and really benefit your audience. I guess why? Why are you doing this?
Great questions. Why am I so mad to do this? I think two things. The first is this app deserves to be in the world. Like when I have a teen, boy or girl, I want them to have access to a resource like this, because it's mad that something like this doesn't. And I just believe that the next generation of women deserves so much better than what I got. And I want to be the first person building for that and just enabling young girls to thrive into adulthood, to, you know, speak up when they've got health issues or have the confidence that they need. So yeah, I just genuinely feel so strongly about that, and I really want it to exist, and it will exist, and it will grow, and it will scale and be in the pockets of teens everywhere. And I guess second to that, you know, talking about family again, I am so motivated by making them proud as well. You know, they have supported me with this crazy journey. They've believed in me and enabled me in sort of so many ways. You know, most people do their MBA and ended up taking a huge pay rise. Jazz, the founder, took a huge salary cut, and going to my parents who, you know, were, you know, just so proud of me getting into Oxford and saying, actually, like, I'm not taking the job I thought I would take, and I'm doing this, and, you know, them being like, actually, it's a great idea and I believe in you, is a huge motivator as well. So I think the two combined is, what gets me up every day and working very late and thinking about Luna practically all the time.
So they sound like very selfless reasons. You're trying to solve a problem which you might have had when you were younger, and helping other people not go through the struggle of finding the information and getting the community which you didn't have, and then also doing it for your family. And I guess I'm with you in that. Those types of motivations where it's not just about you and it's all about being self-centered, where you're actually trying to help people, that's really what will make you work like crazy and do whatever it takes to win. 100%,
yeah, completely agree.
Cool. So for people that have enjoyed this and I guess want to check out your platform, your app, what do they download?
Yeah, so you go to weareluna.app. That's our website and also our social handles as well. If you're not a teen but you know another teenager, whether that's a cousin or a friend, do also share them with us. We definitely want to reach as many teens as possible, so help us spread the word, we'd appreciate it.
Cool. And then I guess if people just want to learn more about you, is LinkedIn?
Yes,
not Instagram, so LinkedIn.
No, not Instagram. LinkedIn, Jazz Schembri-Stothart.
Amazing. Cool. Jess, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching this podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, comment, etc., and I'll see you in the next episode.